It's now time for Diary of a Wrestling Fan with Bill Chase. And now, here he is, the man who is the voice in Randy Orton's head, Bill Chase. Thank you, Mr. Podcast Announcer. Bill Chase here with Diary of a Wrestling Fan, chronicling my journey of 33 years of being a fan of professional wrestling. And today we are going over King of the Ring 2001. Thank you for listening on Anchor, on Spotify, wherever podcasts are available. Check it out. Diary of a Wrestling Fan. This is episode number 2. That's right, I made the debut last week. Now, I was a little surprised at the numbers last week, to be perfectly honest with you, because, well, to be honest, I'm not saying I'm on Joe Rogan level here, but I was a little surprised to the little audience that I garnered last week, and I want to thank those of you who listened very much. Also, by the time this podcast comes out, I will be up on YouTube. That's right, I'll be up on YouTube as well. So again, check out Diary of a Wrestling Fan anywhere you can find it. Again, now the whole concept of this podcast, for those of you who did not tune into episode 1, it's basically to look through the eyes of a fan once again. I feel that along the way, some of us get lost in terms of our love for professional wrestling, and rather than, seeing it as a fan, we see it as a smart fan, so to speak. I've been guilty of that many times, as you will actually find out in this very episode. And it's the thing, you like to think you're smart of the business, but the fact of the matter is, you don't know shit. And I learned that the hard way as I got a little older and got involved in the professional wrestling scene. I didn't know anything. Well, and I don't mean to say I didn't know completely zilch. I'm just saying I didn't know near as much. I didn't even know close to as much as I thought I did. I was coming across guys who had forgotten more than I'll ever know. So either way, I want to send a quick shout out before we really get underway here to Phil Gordon, the voice of Magnificent Championship Wrestling in Brantford. Thank you, Phil, for your acknowledgement of the podcast on my Facebook the other day and whatnot. I thank you very much for your support. And also, of course, to Pro Wrestling Ontario. Of course, the most competitive action in professional wrestling in all of Ontario. Find us all on platforms of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. That's Pro Wrestling Ontario. We're going back all the way to the time I was 18 years old. I was in grade 12. I was just wrapping up grade 12 around this time and getting ready for King of the Ring 2001. Now, of course, by this point, the Monday Night Wars have ended. WCW has been bought by Vince McMahon. And hindsight tells us that's where the Attitude Era died. That's where wrestling started to go downhill because the invasion was about to begin, and that in hindsight was not looked at very fondly. And with some good reason. And others, not so much, though, however. At this point, however, wrestling, in my opinion, was still hot. At least in my eyes. The numbers may have declined a lot since the Monday Night Wars had ended in WrestleMania X7. However, it hadn't declined to the point where there should have been any real panic, at least from what I've researched. And again, arenas were still filling up, pay-per-views were still doing fairly well, but at the same time, though, it's almost as if fans sensed something was different. And even with the Monday Night Wars ending, I had kind of sensed something was different. And to be perfectly honest with you, I still had that passion that I had during the whole Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era and whatnot. And I still want to see some good things in wrestling. Now, at this point, however, yes, I had started reading the dirt sheets. Now, at this point, I was watching wrestling mainly with my 3 very good friends from high school. One of my best friends since grade 8, John Forjak. Great friend I made in grade 9, Jeff Taylor. And a friend of Jeff's, actually, who became one of my best friends, Tom Themelis. Now, hanging out with these 3, we were seen as, John, Jeff, and I were seen as the kind of outcasts in high school. Now, even when I started garnering some more friends and some more, people in my life, I stuck with these guys because they were my boys. You know what I mean? These guys were the guys who, for lack of a better term, stupid as it's going to sound, ride or die with. You know what I mean? These are my brothers. And it was not long around this point. It was, again, this is the spring of 2001. Now, again, I'm about to wrap up grade 12. And in my life, I found that, personally things were not as good as they should be. Here, I felt I was 18 years old. I had no girlfriend. I hadn't had one for a long time. And at that age, girls are everything when you're a red-blooded male. And it was rough on me. I had my heart broken by one of my biggest high school crushes. She was the unattainable popular girl, but I thought that maybe if I showed her who I really was, that she might fall for me. I watched way too many teen movies back then. Oh my god. And it was hard, I took one of my biggest flaws is I take things to heart too much. And I think that I really, really took this to heart. I thought because I was hanging out, not with it sounds shallow, but hanging out with the cooler crowd. I was just saying I was hanging out with people that were deemed cool. Okay, again, no matter what, John and Jeff were my guys. And even they started garnering more friends as high school went on. Especially Jeff. And our anti-socialism was not because we wanted to be that way. It was because we just had no idea how to integrate with the A-listers of the school, if you will. Because we all tried. And it wasn't because popularity was important to us. It was just because we wanted to be accepted for who we were. That's how we all felt at that point. And even though I'm going off on a tangent here, we were outcast because also, not because we were wrestling fans, oddly enough. That's the funny thing. John and I, when we went to Lawfield, were outcast because wrestling wasn't cool yet. Stone Cold Steve Austin was starting to emerge as a star when I was in grade 8, but he wasn't the phenomenon that he would become a short year later. And it wasn't cool to like wrestling. Even in grade 9, it was hard, even when the Attitude Era and whatnot was taking off, because it was still seen as loserish in our eyes. It was not until grade 10 that really people stopped picking on us for being wrestling fans because they were watching it themselves. A lot of the football players I found like The Rock because they thought he was hilarious and they wanted to be like him. A lot of the ladies liked The Rock too because they thought he was good looking. I remember even some goth girls, like, no lie, they love The Undertaker. Our outcast personas, if you will. I shouldn't say personas because that means it wasn't real, but our outcast aura, that's a better word, hung over us big time until later on in high school. And even though at this point I was in a good place in high school, and so were they, for the most part, I still felt like not attaining this woman, I had failed. I had went to prom not long before WrestleMania X7, and I had failed to, because I saw her with another guy apparently deemed better looking by most girls in my high school, and watching her was torture, and I even struggled to find a girl to dance with me. Like, that's, maybe I wasn't as popular as I thought I was. It's like I was good with that crowd, but just from a distance, And again, like I said, it wasn't because I wanted to be popular. It's because I actually genuinely liked a lot of these people. Because I thought they weren't all shallow. They weren't all dicks. They were good people deep down. A lot of them ended up being so. People who were bullying me in grade 9 and 10, I actually sometimes still talk to on occasion to this day. Because, well, they saw I wasn't going to let them see how I was suffering, which I was, but, Anyway, I'm going way off topic here. So, John, Jeff, and then later Tom, and Tom wasn't really an outcast, I don't think, in his school. He was the brainiac of our group, accepted into McMaster University, went to Westmount High, but he had his core of friends, which he was very loyal to. Tom is sometimes loyal to a fault, and sometimes a little too overly loyal to people who don't deserve it either. But we got him into wrestling. He didn't really watch much wrestling until he started hanging out with us, and he was almost more into it than we were in a lot of ways. So much so, as a matter of fact, that around this time we started our own, it was just shortly after the Judgment Day pay-per-view, we started our own backyard wrestling federation, UCW, I think it was called, and we made like this makeshift banner of cardboard. And we were at Backyard Pro starting up this week. It's check them out, by the way. it's interesting because we had this like cardboard with like marker with our logo on the side of the fence, and we wrestled on a trampoline. So no, we weren't those. I know there's that term called yard tards, and I get that, but we were not bumping. We were just having fun on a trampoline more than anything. There was one guy who would take bumps. He was actually Tom's cousin Scott, who we all just thought was great. Because he was a big ECW fan. So, of course, that was the difference in a lot of backyard guys in this era. But the backyard wrestling phenomenon was huge at this point. The backyard wrestling video game had come point. The backyard wrestling video had come out. A lot of people remember that. And some of those backyard guys actually became pretty good stars in the independent circuit later on. And, as I said, I remember that video game so much, too. I just remember those backyard wrestling videos that became pretty viral. Before viral videos on the internet, that this was on tape trading and became very popular. And we want to get in on it. We want to have some fun. And we knew we weren't under the illusion we were real wrestlers. There were a couple guys like that, but still, like, we weren't under this illusion that we were these, badass wrestlers who, we're going to be stars one day. No, we just want to have some fun because we just love wrestling so much. And we enjoyed it. Like, I was called the King of Darkness because I was such an Undertaker fan, and there was nothing really dark about my character. I was just an asshole on comment, and I did commentary too. And that's actually where I started. That's my first commentary gig. And we actually used My Way as our theme song because it was so big at WrestleMania X7. And we just had so much fun just acting like wrestlers. It was no different from when I acted at wrestling shows with my cousins in, my uncle's living room whenever he was at the bar late at night or in their backyards or whatever. It wasn't not much different. We were just being a little more physical, yes, but not to the point where nobody really got. There was a couple little accidents here and there, but nobody got seriously hurt to the point where we had to be taken to the hospital. So we knew our limits. And we just had fun with it. And then our first show, was just around the time of the Judgment Day pay-per-view, as that same weekend, I believe. It was a Saturday. It was the day before it was on the Saturday. Judgment Day was the next day. And I became the first ever European champion of the company with this paper-made belt that we made for all the championships. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. Now, also in my personal life, I was at a crisis of where I was at. Now, despite the fact that, things were happening on TV that were intriguing in WWF, Stone Cold Steve Austin being a heel broke my heart a little. This was a guy since Bret Hart left, I spent well over 3.5 years supporting heavily. After he wasn't feuding with Bret Hart anymore, I'm like, I can like this guy. But yeah, as a wrestling fan, it broke my heart a bit. It just felt like, didn't feel right. Even though I was enjoying a lot of what he was doing on television, the comedy stuff was different. I found it amusing, but it just like, this is good, but it's not Stone Cold. It just didn't feel like Stone Cold to me. I felt that he really didn't deserve to have the name. I even said that in a discussion with Tom and Jeff and John at Filthy McNasty's, that I felt Stone Cold Steve Austin shouldn't even be called Stone Cold anymore. Because his whole character about rebelling against authority, he was partnered with the highest power in the company, Vince McMahon. But we were also excited about the invasion coming. Now, in our heads, we're thinking Goldberg, Sting, Lex Luger even. We were thinking Ric Flair. We were thinking the NWO. But we were like, again, I was also happy to, like, again, DDP, Booker T, guys I really liked that were coming in. Guys I was big fans of for many years. I had been watching WCW since the early 90s. And I was excited about this invasion. We were talking about dream matches. We wanted to see guys like Hogan. Like for Hogan versus Austin. That's the stuff we want to see. The Rock versus Ric Flair. Goldberg versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker versus Sting. Again, the possibilities, again, were just utterly amazing to think about. I even concocted. I remember again we were sitting in Filthy McNasty discussing this. We were concocting storylines about how I felt Chris Jericho should go on a one-man mission to go through WCW wrestlers and get to Goldberg. Because I read the whole rumors about Goldberg being, feeling he's too good to face Jericho or whatever, work a match with him, feeling he wasn't at that level. And how Jericho could, get his revenge and whatnot. Guys, again, I even see guys have defect back to WCW who came to the WWF. You guys have a guy like, say, Perry Saturn. I came up with this idea about Perry Saturn going back to the WCW side because he felt WWF wasn't using him right since he came over or something like that. We came up with so many different, it was fantasy booking. But again, naive to think that we could book better than the biggest wrestling company in the world. But I don't think it was at that point necessarily we could book better. We were just dreaming of the possibilities of that this invasion could have. Now, I digress back to what I said about me being at a crossroad in my life. I felt that I attached myself to wrestling more than anything at this point, and that is why, because I felt I was lost elsewhere. Wrestling at least was there. My friends were there. We had a tight bond that was unbreakable. John was a guy who often played in drama classes personas who wanted to be ladies' men, and he would act like it sometimes, but he really wasn't. But still, we found him humorous. We found his dry humor was really amusing to us. Tom was outrageous and insane with his humor sometimes, and we loved him for it. Jeff, he would say these crazy things that would just kill us laughing at the table. And, me, I was, I was just the insane one who just would be so random and just cause Tom to shake his head, but then he would laugh right 30 seconds later. We had a very interesting dynamic together. These guys I was sure of, wrestling I was sure of. The rest of my life I wasn't. So around this time I actually started going to a youth group at a local church called Bethel Gospel Tabernacle. My good friend Lisa Harvey, who I'd known since grade 7, had asked me to come out the one night. I had just met another friend of hers, Jenny McInnes, who Jeff had a crush on, by the way, and I teased him about that hardcore. I kind of got a little nasty. It wasn't intentional. I kind of got a little nasty with it. I would tease him. He would, he would get bent, a little bit out of shape, or let me tell you something, as he's always saying. I knew, at least I stopped after a while, but yeah. And I didn't blame Jeff. Jenny was a very good-looking woman. She still is. And also Crystal Miles, who I didn't really know very well at that point, and she actually drove me there not knowing who I was. So I felt something at that church. It wasn't just the spiritual aspect of it, worshiping God and whatnot, but at least I felt in a new place, despite barely knowing anyone except for maybe 3-4 people there, and a couple others who I recognized from school. For some reason, I felt drawn to it. Now, this kind of caused, not conflict, but a little opinionation from, that's not even a word, but either way, from Tom. Tom did not believe in organized religion. And he made it known. He didn't threaten to ostracize me or disown me as my friend. He just was concerned that I'd be sucked into the vortex, I think is the way he put it. Oh, he was too smart for his own good sometimes, but he had a lot of concern. But I tried to explain to him that right now in my life, I'm really not knowing what's happening. Even though I'd finished grade 12, I still was credit short of graduating. I did not have a best relationship with my father at that point. It was just starting to get a little iffy, but at least it was still decent enough, and I'm still close to my mother. But even so, I'll even blame myself for a lot of that at this point in my life. And I was 18. Being 18, I didn't make things easy for my parents at a lot of the time. But, there were certain aspects I won't get into, I won't dive deep into, because that's not what this is about. But I wondered in my head, though, I had an idea of how, quote-unquote, church people, Christians, thought. And I thought that they'd see wrestling as a form of blasphemy or whatever. And that did concern me. But the thing is, I didn't try to hide who I was. I knew I should still be myself. But I saw, I don't know if they saw wrestling, some of them saw wrestling. A couple of them actually ended up being fans that I didn't know that they were. And then a couple of them were, they were iffy about it, but I would end up being judged by people about it right up till I left the church. And at the same time, though, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be perfectly honest. And I started going every Friday night to the youth group, which bugged them because sometimes I'd hang out with them on Friday nights, but usually I'd just switch my days with them to Saturdays. And in hindsight, I don't think I should have ditched them like that. Just start going to a youth group on Friday, but at the same time, I don't regret it. But at the same time, I felt it was what I needed at that point. So despite the fact that I was being at a crossroad in my life, despite the fact that, I was just heartbroken over some girl I should have never went after anyway, and despite the fact that I was heartbroken by Stone Cold's heel turn, things I thought were going to get even better for professional wrestling at this point, for the WWF. And when I started reading the dirt sheets, the guys loved that. They felt, Bill, you have the inside track. Even though, here's the thing with internet. Even though internet was heavily popular at this point now, it's not like today where literally every household has it. Okay, maybe not literally everyone, but let's just say the internet audience was still a lot smaller 20 years ago than it is now. My parents had only just gotten the internet a year prior in 2000. So, I don't think John had even had it yet. I think Jeff had just gotten it. I'm pretty sure Tom had it. I can't remember if he had it at this point. But either way, we all got it around the same time, same time frame. And so they didn't really look up the dirt sheets often, and I did. I thought that was I thought it was like the Holy Grail being opened up on the internet. Now, my only access to the dirt sheets back in the day was a line I would call from the courtesy of the Spectator, and they had the Wrestling Insider extension, and you get a few tidbits here and there. Toronto Sun used to have an article devoted to wrestling, kind of going on the inside track there. I watched Off the Record on TSN, which gave away a lot of stuff on the inside, and it's just like they kept coming to me with, what's going on? What's the backstage rumors this week? I felt great, even though in hindsight, probably a lot of them were bullshit. A lot of them ended up being true years later, but still, it felt good. You know what I mean? It felt good at the time. So we're hyped up for King of the Ring 2001 because Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit at this point were so red hot. Benoit, a guy nobody saw, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people saw not getting over as a top guy or even as a babyface. He managed to. I think aligning himself with Jericho probably helped, because Jericho at this point had been one of the upper tier baby faces for the better part of a year. And they were they were red hot. I remember leading up to this, just not long after Judgment Day. And I remember watching this match with Jeff, my friend Jeff, in his room. And we were going nuts cheering for Jericho and Benoit to beat Austin and Triple H, who have formed the two-man power trip. Now, this is another thing, too. I was actually looking forward to a match with Triple H and Lex Luger. I don't know, for some reason, just the body guys. Body guy matches seem to be intriguing because, I don't know, just they have a different way of building them up, because I remember watching tapes of Ken Patera and Tony Atlas, and it was always intriguing. But anyway, I digress. So, we didn't realize Triple H had torn his quad until I actually found out, again, on a website called Wrestling Planet, with a message board and everything, the following day, when they were at the SmackDown tapings. So, because they said Triple H wasn't there or whatever. And it was just such an insanely epic match. We were so emotionally invested in it, and we actually, jumped out of our chairs and just roared. Yeah, high-fiving each other to the point where Jeff's stepdad comes in. What the hell's going on in here? Oh, sorry. Because it was already getting late at that point, because it's Raw, it's the main event. So we're pushing on 11 o'clock here. I left right after, needless to say. But it was a great moment. It was a great mark-out moment, as they say. And because I love Jericho. I love both these guys since their WCW days. Now, I love Jericho and Benoit because Jericho was just a very, very unique performer. Funny. Again, he could be serious. Jericho was one of those good mix and entertaining and comedic character. Also, like into The Rock. No, I'm not putting Jericho and The Rock on the same level. If that's what you're all going to complain about. But I love Jericho even more than The Rock sometimes. So there. Anyway, again, this is just as a fan. I was seeing it as a fan. Now, The Rock at this point was gone. So, WWF was having trouble finding top stars because The Rock was gone. Austin was a heel. And I talked this with the guys too. But I'm thinking Jericho and Benoit. I even said it's their time now. It is Jericho's fucking time is what I actually said to the guys. I said Jericho has been on the tier of being the top guy. It's now his turn. But then John, who had a bit of insider knowledge, probably right next to me there, he's just like, oh, no way, he would never sell out a WrestleMania. Like, John had that pessimism to him, which he became known for. And I'm thinking, no, Jericho has everything it takes to be a main event guy. And I'm not saying he's going to be on the level of Austin or Rock when it comes to, how much merch they sell or how much, they fill an arena. But he could be pretty close. Like, who's to say? They weren't buying it. Well, John wasn't buying it. Jeff was buying it a bit more. He didn't think he thought Benoit had. I think what was it? He said so. John made this joke about Benoit. I think he held up a beer, like he was drinking a beer. He's like, no, that wasn't a beer. Sorry. No, wait, it was because he was legal to drink at that point. Yeah, because he was a year older than me. He held up his beer and say, "This beer has more charisma than Chris Benoit," which I felt was terrible. And I really, really enjoyed the fact that newer guys were going to get the chance again, because with The Rock on, with Austin as a heel, they needed fresh babyface. Now, The Undertaker had taken the top babyface role for the couple pay-per-views after WrestleMania X7, and Undertaker's always over, no matter what. I mean, he's The Undertaker, for fuck's sakes. But at the same time, I think, again, he was not a guy who was around for so long. While fans were still behind The Undertaker, I think they still wanted to see somebody new in the spotlight at that point. At least that's the perception I got from talking to fellow wrestling fans. And I'm not just talking like the inside fans, quote unquote, the smart marks or whatever, quote unquote. But no, I think a lot of people were craving to see people in the spotlight. Just even the casual fans, I felt like some of them were thinking, oh yeah, well, Austin's a bad guy now. I wish we'd go back good. I wish The Rock would come back. But I kind of like that Jericho. I think Jericho's awesome. Like, yeah, see. They like Jericho. I think, and judging by the reaction of that tag team match that night, to me, they were made. Like, that would truly emphasize that they were made as upper tier talent. Now, granted, they both. I don't think Jericho had actually main evented a pay per view yet, but Benoit had a couple times against The Rock. One in a fatal 4-way and the other a 1-on-1 match. So they had, and again, Jericho is like right near the main event always, for the most part, at least at this point. So. Yeah, I think it was finally their time to get to that level. So when they booked that triple threat match, I was excited. So I actually thought in my head one of them was going to win. At this point, they had the TLC 4 match as well, where, again, around this point, Benoit's neck problems were starting to be an issue, and they would culminate at King of the Ring. I'll get to that. Now, I think the reason why Benoit was so liked by fans, not just because he was associated with Jericho, but I think it was because they had just... people were appreciating a lot of wrestling, like pure wrestling skill in the ring at around this time. And Benoit was just so damn good in the ring. I think the fans just finally started gravitating towards it. Okay, so he wasn't Ric Flair on the microphone. Not everyone is. But at the same time, having Jericho with him helped. It was almost like Jericho was his mouthpiece, pretty much. And I think Benoit could have been a main event champion guy at this point. And I felt that way at that time. Now, of course, around this time, Shane McMahon, that was the other big thing, owning WCW. Now, we thought, is Shane a good guy? But we were confused by this, because the invasion was starting. We figured the WWF would be the good guys, but yet the WCW guys would still have their support. So we were kind of thinking maybe a Shane in between, which is the term called a tweener. And we didn't know, because he was feuding with Kurt Angle, who was, for all intents and purposes, a heel. Now, when they announced the match between Shane and Kurt being, no rules or whatever, I wasn't really too excited about this. I mean, Shane was fun to watch here and there, but at times, like today, he's just, I didn't always want to see him there. Little did we know what we were in for at King of the Ring. And again, I had said to John, 3 years ago, speaking of King of the Ring, that Edge would be a guy who's a future champion. John laughed at me. I remember we were walking in the hall between class, and I said, Edge is the guy that's going to be a future champion. And he just started laughing. Now, granted, Edge hadn't even at this point, when we had this conversation, him and Edge at the Edge and Christian team hadn't even really taken off yet, the way it would in 2000. I think it was just shortly before they kind of took off and turned heel on that. And I thought to myself, I'm like, why is he laughing? Why do I see it, not him? And I said to John, too, at this point, like, you see Edge, he's going to win the King of the Ring. Now, that's one I called. I didn't call a lot of matches right this night, but I called Edge winning King of the Ring. I said, it is his time. And John's like, oh, you still think he's going to be a champion? I'm like, he's definitely going to be a champion. He's like, yeah, Intercontinental. And I'm like, and then, of course, me being a smart ass, I might have Johnny was Intercontinental champion already at one point. But anyway, so what happened was that at this point, I'm watching pay-per-views was getting harder. We didn't have what we called the cheater box back then anymore, or I think they'd been all busted, or not busted, but I guess people figured out, cable companies figured out how to, not let us uncode their pay-per-views anymore. So it was getting harder to watch, but I would find places to watch. Occasionally, my parents would let me order. Now, at this point, I should point out, remember in the first podcast, if you listen, my dad was not a diehard, I shouldn't say, but he was a devoted wrestling fan. But at this point, he wasn't at all anymore. He had stopped at around, say, mid to late 97. Even though I think in 96 is where he truly lost it, just when Shawn Michaels became champion. And he, kind of resented the fact that I still liked it. It was kind of tough. And even though they would still allow me to watch them, I think it was almost a sense of reluctance. Now, my mom has never liked wrestling at all. Like I said, I mentioned that in the first podcast. And, again, they thought I was getting a little too obsessed with it. And at that point, I could see their concern. I don't think they realized, how important it was to me. And, but my mom's actually come around quite a bit these days, seeing what I'm doing right now. She's actually quite happy that I'm involved in it. And it was getting harder and harder, but Jeff's parents had allowed him to watch pay-per-views now. I think they had those special satellite cards or whatever that would, I could be wrong here, I know, because we had one later that would like kind of decode the pay-per-views and that's how we would watch them. So this was the first pay-per-view we watched at Jeff's house. It was myself, I believe it was myself, Jeff, John, and Tom. We were all together. And I think Jeff's brother Jonathan was there because he was a wrestling fan. Jonathan was only about 13, 14 at that point. So we're all watching together, getting ready to watch together, and again, we're going over all our predictions. Now, again, like I said, Stone Cold being heel, again, broke our heart. We didn't like it a lot, but we enjoyed some of the comedy stuff. But I was actually intrigued by some of the fact that, okay, I said in my head too, I'm like, Stone Cold's feuding with newer guys now. He's not feuding with the same guys over and over anymore. That's what I even pointed out to them. I said, that's another thing I was enjoying about the character. He was having matches on Raw with Spike Dudley. I was interested in that sort of stuff. It was different. It was fun. And for any wrestling fan, I find sometimes being different, I mean, I know different isn't always good, but at that point it was. Again, like I said, he was feuding with Benoit and Jericho. Now, he had kind of had a small thing with Benoit not long before this, but still, he never really had much with Jericho. And again, another thing leading up to this, I mentioned that tag team match. I remember those classic matches he was having with Benoit on television, and I'm thinking, I even thought to myself, like, why aren't they saving this for pay-per-view? I'm like, this is amazing stuff. I said, this is some of the best pure matches Stone Cold has had since the Bret Hart feud. And, yeah, me sound like a freaking brilliant smartass, right? But no, seriously, because there were such great matches with Benoit. And Jericho being involved just emphasized everything. So I think, here was my prediction. Now, I didn't know much about Benoit's neck problems at this point. So the TLC 4 match, which we all thought was just a sad rehash of what was already great at WrestleMania. I didn't enjoy the TLC 4 match. And we were all disappointed by it, too. And I know they later lost the tag titles, which we were puzzled by. And like I said to the guys, I'm like, no, this is good. Because here's what's going to happen. This is me, again, playing smartass. Benoit and Jericho are going to have dissension in this match. Austin's not even going to get pinned. I predicted that. I said, Austin is going to hit the stunner on Benoit and get tossed out of the ring, and Jericho is going to hit a lion salt and win it. And beat his partner. And Benoit's going to go back to being a heel. Right? And then Austin can still be involved in the title picture. Now, we knew the Invasion pay-per-view was coming up. The poster had already leaked online at this point. And I showed them, and they thought it was the coolest thing ever. That it was. Remember that poster? It was the half face of Vince and the half face of Shane. Like I said, Shane, quote unquote, owned WCW in story. And we were excited. Like, this is going to be amazing. So I'm thinking, somebody's going to invade tonight. And I said, how awesome would it be? And I predicted this. That if coming out of the rafters, Sting lays out someone, I said it's gonna be a main event guy tonight, because we had already seen Lance Storm. Well, DDP was the main event guy, yes, and we're actually excited to see him. But that whole, I'm a huge Undertaker fan. He's in my top 5 all time. Even I wasn't, and that was another thing that was going to happen on this show. I wasn't digging the whole story with the whole, him stalking Undertaker's wife thing. It was stupid. And even in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, DDP was dead out of the gate in this one. So I don't know. I wasn't really invested in that whole thing, and I was glad to see DDP there, and the reveal was great. Like, I remember we got a huge pop, and I'm thinking, oh my god, DDP, no way. And then they just turn it into something quite tacky. So whatever. Anyway, and I'm thinking, okay, so DDP is the only real main event guy who's debuted. I'm thinking, so they're going to lead up to, like, Sting. And then John's like, no, because John was a huge Goldberg fan. He's like, Goldberg's going to... And he's like, I think Austin's still going to keep the title tonight. And when he's walking down the aisle to celebrate his victory, Goldberg's going to spear him in the aisle. But I'm like, ooh, that'd be really cool. And then I'm thinking, or we could... Again, I was excited to the prospects. Or what if... Because this is another one too, because this is what during the Sunday Night Heat, where Matt Hardy's doing Just Incredible, we just, we didn't want to see the Hardys in singles at that point. We weren't paying attention to that match, I won't lie. So, and I turn around, I have my bullet chips, and I'm just like, guys, think this is even better than that. I said, okay, so, say for argument's sake, Austin wins, which I still thought Jericho was going to win, but I'm like, say for argument's sake, he does. And I said, wouldn't it be even better if the lights were to go out and they came back on and there's Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and they just start beating the crap out of him? The place would erupt. And then as soon as Hall hits the razor's edge, Nash hits the jackknife, and then all you see in the aisleway is Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, sauntering down the aisle, nodding his head with that evil grin, that beard, and wearing the NWO colors, rips the shirt, throws it down on Austin's face, and just drops the leg on him. It would be such an iconic moment, we thought. We were just anxious of the possibilities. We got our hopes just a little too high in our own right, and we shouldn't have. But even so, I was still excited about what would happen. So, the show itself, even John, I remember him saying to me, and I think this is the start of the declining point of John's interest in wrestling, was that he actually didn't feel the need to pay attention much to the matches. He used to be right into the shows, I remember, back in high school and that. And I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed that he wasn't really digging the show. I'm thinking, is John losing interest? I took this to heart. Now, these are the little things I notice in life. I took this to heart because this was part of our bond. Like, this is all of our bond together. If we don't have wrestling to watch, what do we? Granted, with John, we loved movies. Like, John was a big movie buff, like I am, and again, with the entertainment stuff, television. Jeff was the more the music guy. Tom, again, he was very smart. We were actually enjoyed Tom for his smarts. He would point out things to us and kind of teach us along the way about certain things. But he was also very well-rounded, and he liked sports and whatnot. But again, he was really into wrestling with us. I thought there was no way at this point Tom was going to lose interest in wrestling ever. So the show opened with Kurt Angle and Christian. And again, at this point, we're thinking Angle winning is inevitable. Like, the match, anyway. But we thought Shane might cost him this match. And we're thinking, Edge and Christian in the finals. We predicted that too, Edge and Christian in the finals. Because Shane's going to cost Kurt the match. No, he didn't. Angle won, which wasn't all that surprising, but we're thinking, okay, well, why didn't Shane interfere? Because Shane's been making Kurt's life hell for a little while now. And then it was Edge and Rhino. We knew, even though Rhino was a new fresh star at the time, we knew that Edge was going to win this one. And the thing too with Rhino was that I thought he was very unique. I thought he stood out above the pack, because I was excited about these new guys coming in. Because I even said, and it was during this match, I said to the guys, Rhino was the last ECW champion, and I said to the guys, where are all the ECW guys? And then I remember John looked at me. He's like, how much you want to bet they're a part of the invasion? And wow, I was thinking, oh my goodness, he could be right. And Heyman was on commentary. Paul Heyman and JR on commentary at this point. Let me tell you something about the Heyman-JR duo. In a lot of ways, grossly underrated. I think they're a lot more appreciated now than they were back then, but one of the best. Even dating back to their days in WCW together. But anyway, so I said to John, yeah, Heyman is there. And then Tom would also, yeah, Heyman, he owned ECW. Oh my God, you could be right. Four Rock. That's right, John was called the Four Rock. That was his wrestling name, the Four Rock. And I remember Tom was Double T Thrasher. Yeah, we call him Double T a lot because Tom Themlis, two T's. And Death and Jeff was Jeff's name. Yeah, don't ask. We were all young. We were not even 20 yet, to be fair. Yeah, King of Darkness wasn't much better. It was highly unoriginal. I'll even mock myself there. So we were getting all excited about the prospect of ECW guys coming in now too, because again, Spike was there too. We thought about this, like, Spike's there, and but where's Rob Van Dam? John loved Rob Van Dam. That was his favorite ECW guy. Tommy Dreamer. Where's Tommy Dreamer? Where are all these guys? So we were wondering that. And thinking this could be amazing. So we're actually really into the Edge and Rhino match. Edge won. John kind of rolled his eyes. John never caught it with Edge, I don't think. And that's fine. Like I said, as a wrestling fan, you're not going to like everyone. And John just didn't really see it with Edge. But the other two, actually, John, Tom, and Jeff really were into Edge. So the next one I think was, I just got to go to my match order here. Try not to use it. Oh yeah, it was the Dudleys against Kane and Spike, because Spike had just broken away from them because of the fact, the whole Molly Holly thing. That was a good angle. I don't know why, but I was really into that. I thought it was good, the Spike Molly love story. I thought it was kind of, love stories in wrestling are hit or miss. But this one, I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was almost as good as Matt and Lita in a lot of ways. I don't know. It was very underrated, and I was really into the angle. And again, Spike got a main event match on Raw with Stone Cold Steve Austin because of it. So, logically, again, it benefited Spike in a lot of ways. This was... Obviously, Spike wasn't going to be pushed beyond that level, but still, he got to a level to the point where a lot of guys his size wouldn't get. And, again, that's not me trying to be a smartass. It's just how even Bruce Pritchard and many others close to Vince say that's how he thinks. So, and even as fans, we knew Vince didn't favor small guys that way, even before I quote-unquote knew. I've been saying that a lot tonight, yikes. Yeah, and I remember not remembering much about this match. I was hoping Spike would, get the revenge on his brothers, and Kane at this point just seemed like he was kind of wandering aimlessly. I don't know. It was just kind of strange. But this was like the beginning of formula of Spike tagging up with, bigger tag team partners. Then I remember this, and then after that, the King of the Ring tournament final was this. I'm like, why is this so early in the show? But I'm thinking, wait, there's not many matches left. There's only 4 more after this. But yeah, there's 4 just passed. So we're just past midway. Because I remember there was I remember I couldn't even remember Jeff Hardy still had a match. Because I said, well, we still got the Shane McMahon Kurt Angle, we got the main event, and something else. So because I forgot Jeff was light heavyweight champion at this point. I know the Hardys having singles runs was interesting, but I wasn't really enjoying it all that much. At this point, I still want to see them as tag team wrestlers. So Edge had won against Kurt Angle, and Shane interfered. And I remember saying, oh, so we were half right. I was half right. Yes, I was half right. And we were happy Edge won. Even John kind of was happy that Edge won, and he's like, well, he deserves it. He's been around a few years now, and he's climbed up the ladder, and stuff like that. It was so funny. And, we marked out for that. And then, so we figured, okay, that's going to set up Shane and Kurt later. Because we weren't sure if Shane and Kurt was going to be before the final, or I guess in a lot of ways it wouldn't make sense if it was. But, so then, so I'm sorry about that. So Jeff Hardy comes out and faces X-Pac. Now, Jeff Hardy was a light heavyweight champion. And, again, this is X Factor. Oh, that theme song. Oh, even back then we were making fun of it. Even when he came out, I remember now. When he made his entrance, John said the funniest thing. What is this? Is this song sang by Michael Bolton? And we just lost it. Again, John wasn't always known for his major humor in some ways, but he would get that one line that would just kill us. We just lost it laughing. Because it was a cheesy theme by Uncle Cracker. And we even said, though, again, I think I remember Tom saying, I think it might have been Tom, he said during this match, well, if the Hardys are going to be singles wrestlers, I could see Jeff being like the bigger star. He just has that something extra that Matt doesn't. And I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, he's kind of right. But at this point, with light heavyweight title was just kind of there. You know what I mean? Jeff gave us some star power, granted. But either way. So then, we were not ready for this. The street fight between Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle. The only thing that was on our mind is the same thing that's on everyone else's mind when Shane McMahon still wrestles to this day. What crazy shit is he gonna do? We were just waiting for 1 or 2 spots for him to just do something crazy. We had no idea that this would be one of the most violent matches in WWF history up to this point. When Kurt tried to suplex him through the glass, when he went through the glass, everything they did in this match, our reaction was the same. Oh my God! Like, Tom was doing his best Joey Styles. I don't even think he knows he knew who Joey Styles was at that point. Because he didn't really know much about ECW. Tom, oh my God! And then John's like, they're insane! And Jeff is like, oh my goodness! And then we're just losing it. And and here we were just expecting 1 or 2 crazy things just for Shane to do in this match. And I thought it was the best match of the night. It ended up being. Now, I'll get to the main event. I thought the main event was really good, but still, this was the match that we were talking about. And we didn't want it to end. We're like, oh, I want it to keep going. Like, oh, man, they could have done some more stuff. But Shane at that point looked messed up. And even Kurt was groggy with concussion, tailbone injury, and stuff like that. Like, it was insanely enjoyable to watch. So then came the main event. And we were psyched for this too because we were wondering what's going to happen. We thought, okay, no invasion no invasion guy has showed up yet. Who's it going to be? All our predictions were, is going to be, my prediction of Sting descending from the Raptors. Was it going to be Goldberg spearing Austin in the aisle? Or was it going to be the NWO putting Austin in a beatdown? So the match, it happened. It was enjoyable. We were into it. But again, we were all still talking about that street fight, even during this match. And then, out of nowhere, Booker T popped up. And we actually did get a little excited. Because, again, Booker T was the last WCW champion. So we saw him as, another main event guy. We didn't think of Booker. I know, later on we talked about it, we would have liked to see the scenarios we concocted in our heads. It was, Booker T, no way. Putting Austin through the, table and that. And just, we were excited. I'm thinking, it's going to get even better, guys. Just watch. Tomorrow on Raw, someone's going to, we were still doing our thing. They were kind of, at least among us, the four of us, or five of us in that room, with Jonathan there as well, the finish of the match to me just felt flat. Austin won, okay. And again, I learned about Benoit's neck injury the next day. It was a fun night to hang out with friends. This is what being a wrestling fan is all about to me. Pay-per-view parties. I miss those more than anything. Thankfully, in the last year before the pandemic hit, I had a couple. I've been to a couple. And it reminded me of how fun these nights were. And then the next night, I was watching Raw, and I talked to Tom on the phone, and we were going over, Raw. And when Booker coming in and going after Vince. We thought that was great, too. Kurt was still looking groggy from his concussion. Oh, man. But we were excited, though. We were excited about the prospects of what was going to happen at the Invasion pay-per-view. And without giving too much away, because I'm probably going to cover Invasion sometime in the future, we were disappointed. Immensely. Even though, despite the fact that the guys that we wanted to be there, like the Stings, the Hogans, and the Goldbergs. Now keep in mind, despite my looking up things on the internet at this point, blah, 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 dirt sheet, inside fan, I didn't really know much about their contract status. I knew that they had... I did know a bit about their Time Warner deals, but I figured, okay, well, Vince will buy them out. He's got the money, and I even said that to them. The Attitude Era has drawn so much money. I said, Vince can afford them. Nope, I was wrong. But I actually thought the build-up to the Invasion pay-per-view that in the coming weeks was really good. And at this point, I was still, school had finally finished at this point. I was going to church every Friday. I wasn't going to the Sunday services yet, or the young adults group on Monday, which is more my crowd at that point. And it was on to a summer that we'd still have some backyard wrestling shows. Sadly, Tom, which I won't share his personal details on here, he went through a bad personal issue and whatnot. And we made the most of it. We spent that summer trying to cheer him up, trying to get him out of his funk. But still, though, we had a lot of fun together. It set the tone. This show, this King of the Ring show, and the fact that our backyard wrestling company was thriving in our eyes. We weren't making a dime off of it. We were filming every show, but no, it set the tone for what would be a memorable summer for all of us. And I'm sure I'm going to cover it more on the show in the future. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Again, it's just me rambling on. I went off on tangents. I went off topic many times, but that's sadly what this podcast is going to be a lot of in many ways. So, thank you all for joining me once again here. Diary of a Wrestling Fan. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which it'll be on my YouTube channel, is just Bill Chase. Again, just follow me wherever podcasts or broadcast, because I need your support. I'm on Spotify now. You can follow me on there. Follow the podcast on there. And Diary of a Wrestling Fan. Next week, now I try to keep this podcast light. And again, going around just a typical life of a wrestling fan, though. So, sometimes in professional wrestling, things aren't always great. So with the anniversary coming up and the fact that the Dark Side of the Ring special was such a huge success, I will be diving into the Chris Benoit tragedy. So I do warn you that that one will be a little more downtrodden than the previous two now that I have done, including this one, and just prepare yourselves, I guess. But still, this is Diary of a Wrestling Fan. Doesn't mean everything's going to be great. But I will talk a lot about what was going on in my life at that time as well, and what was going on in my professional wrestling fandom. So hope you all join me. So once again, this is your friend and mine, Bill Chase, signing off, quoting a very wise fellow native Hamiltonian when I tell you, don't you dare miss it. Thank you for listening to Diary of a Wrestling Fan with Bill Chase. If you'd like to make a contribution to Bill or the show, just don't send any of your money to Vince Russo.